4 o'clock in the morning, the day the rhino hunt took place.
Torben Espensen is a successful Danish businessman, a hunter, a gun collector and an ambassador for international shooting, acknowledged by the World Forum on the Future of Sport Shooting Activities. We meet him in Sweden, where he tells us about his passion for trophies and justifies how he travels the world in pursuit of some of the planet's most endangered animals, in particular the rhino.
We took a shot at about 60 yards, and the first shot was
You
about 3 yards.
specialise in endangered animals. That's not very nice.
Well, depending what type of glasses you have on. Asking a question like that, the first thing I'll accuse you for is having blinkers on, because then you actually don't know what's going on.
Well, tell me, what's going on?
Today, most of the hunting around the world is very regulated, controlled, at least in most of the countries. And what the anti-hunting people doesn't understand, that if it wasn't for licensed hunting, we wouldn't have any game left.
Torben has given us permission to use footage from his white rhino hunt in South Africa in 2008. After 4 hours of tracking 2 bull rhino, he has the opportunity to shoot.
After it was all over, I said to me, "Thank you, Mr. Espensen." And I was looking with a big question mark on him and said, "For what?" "For the act you just done. You shot a rhino." I said, "Yes." "Yeah, are you aware that without people like you, we would not be able to maintain the stock of rhinos we have? Because about 80% of the trophy fee you're paying is going back to maintain the wildlife. And this is one of the things that the anti-hunting person doesn't understand. If we doesn't have that money to go back to the trade and to maintain the wildlife, we wouldn't have anything left, because then everything will be open for poaching. And by the end of the day, we will just look at an empty world with no game. Is that what they want? There is an expression, what the Americans say, if it pays, it stays.
I guess you paid a great deal of money. Can you say how much?
Half a farm.
Half a farm?
Yes.
For a single animal?
Yes.
Why?
When I was 14, I had my confirmation. And an uncle gave me a book. It was a travel description from an English lord and her ladyship back in the middle 1800s, going to Kenya on safari. But in that book, there was a scene of a rhino hunt. I mean, I'm 14 years old, and I was sitting in my tiny little room, and I wasn't reading the book actually, I was eating it. But I swore, as 14 years old, I'm going to have that experience someday in my life. It took me more than half a lifetime to get there. When I celebrated 50 years, I made up my mind. I'm going to fulfill the dream I had when I was 14. So I said to friends and family, I don't want any gift. I want cash or checks. I'm going to save for rhino. And in 1998, I fulfilled my dream. And actually, to say it plain open, I was crying. I lifted my head and looked up and said, "Thank you." Emotion took over. It was a fantastic day for me.
Okay, bongo, Nubian ibex, southern white rhino, crocodile. You're not a bad person?
No. I benefit to the preservation of them. Tanzania is in full speed they have more or less copied the situation in South Africa. A lot of the money we pay in trophy fee is going back to the trade to maintain gamekeepers and anti-squat groups and anti-poaching groups and stuff like that. And because if we don't do that, the animal is going to disappear.
What about all the animal watchers, the tourists who go and look at animals instead of shooting them?
That's an income for the trade in the countries as well. But the problem here is these animals are not really wild anymore. To me, it doesn't mean anything. I can see a cheetah or lion lying 4 meters from a car because so used to it. Some of the wild has been taken out. Most of my animals have been taken in real wilderness. That's where I see the challenge. And to me, to be a hunter, the way I see things, I think it's a privilege. I'm very grateful that the good Lord have let me done that.
South Africa is the only country in the world where trophy hunters can hunt rhinos, and thus all of the Big Five, albeit on a limited basis. The Big Five originally included the black rhino because of its aggressive and intimidating behavior. Today, however, one can only hunt the larger white rhino, because black rhino are on the endangered list and highly protected under the Convention for International Trade on Endangered Species. South African wildlife authorities are world leaders in white rhino conservation, and this is shown by the large number of permits available every year. Conrad Vermaak Safaris took 9 white rhino in the year 2001 alone, all of which made the record book, including the new world record, and no less than 5 in the top 10 of the SCI record book. White rhino weigh in at about 2.2 tons. Black rhino are only about half this weight. Black rhinos have a prehensile hooked lip, adapted to browsing. The white rhino has a square lip, adapted to grazing. The black rhino can therefore hold its head higher, allowing it to reach foliage higher on the tree. Interesting too is that black rhino calves run behind their mothers. The calves of white rhino run in front of the females. Calves are weaned at approximately 18 months, but only leave their mothers at about 4 years of age. Rhinos are territorial. The bulls demarcate their territory by spraying urine onto bushes and defecating in dung heaps called middens. They then drag their back feet in these middens and walk away, leaving their scent wherever they go as a warning to other bulls. Rhino bulls often use their horns in battle. These bouts occasionally end in death. Rhino hunting is extremely underrated and can provide challenging hunting done properly. The challenge is to get as close as possible without being detected. Rhino have poorly developed eyesight, but have an acute sense of hearing and smell. They are hunted with ultra-heavy calibers because their hide is over an inch thick in places. Only solids are used since good penetration is needed to reach the vitals with maximum velocity. Paul Bianchi from Rockland, California, was hunting with PH Peter Ganetsky. The safari team had located several rhino bulls, but had turned them down, preferring to look for a bigger trophy. They encountered a herd of rhino in late afternoon sunlight. It was then that they identified their bull. Paul free-handed the rhino, who broke from thick cover. They began a 2-mile chase. The bull had been hit well, as a clear blood trail led the hunters to their trophy. Paul poleaxed the rhino, and so the hunt finished. It was a fantastic bull, easily making the SCI record book.
So Clay was back, it was August, and we went to an area about 4 hours north of Johannesburg. And on the first morning we picked up some tracks of a lone rhino bull. And judging by the size of his tracks, you could see that he was a really big rhino in body. We still had to see what his horn looked like. So after about 3 hours of tracking, Patches and Robert again did a sterling job. We found the rhino having a nap at about 10 o'clock in the morning. in a small clearing, and we were surrounded by really thick brush. So we spent some time deciding on our approach. At that point the wind was already swirling. We went in just to the southern side of the rhino. He was lying broadside, and we got up to within about 30 yards, and we sat down, and Clay was resting his elbows on his knees. He was using his 458 again, a great rifle. As he was getting ready to squeeze off, the rhino stood up, and Clay hit him. A reasonable shot, but because of that initial movement, the rhino is extremely agile, as we all know. You know, when they jump up like that, it's quick. It can make a big difference on your shot. So the first shot was admittedly not a fantastic shot because the rhino was moving and he moved quickly. And the rhino turned and he was just disappearing in a cloud of dust. At which point Clay fired another shot, which actually anchored the rhino. He did take off. We tracked him for a short while and then found him again in a really thick clump of acacias. Really thick bush. In fact, it was difficult just to walk through there. The thorns were just grabbing you from every direction. And the rhino was standing broadside, but because of the thick brush and the grey colour of the vegetation, we couldn't really make out the shoulder area on the rhino. So we had to try and ease closer. And as we eased closer, the rhino, who was already spooked, sensed us, and he turned and faced us. That's a very difficult shot as a frontal shot in a rhino. And Clay managed to squeeze a shot in right under his chin, which penetrated into the brisket and then right through the rhino's heart. The rhino spun. As Clay was reloading to shoot him again, his rifle jammed. So I put an insurance shot because I couldn't see where the most recent shot had gone.
Yeah.
And the rhino took off. And Clay managed to sort his rifle out in the time I'd given him mine to finish off the rhino. And we found him lying dead in very thick brush, and he was an incredible rhino, massive body. His horns were exceptionally thick. The circumference was over 33 inches on the front horn, back horn about the same. And the beautiful thing was that the horn remained thick from the base right the way to the tip. And he scored really well. In fact, the green measurement challenges the present world record. So he's a great rhino and a great hunt. I know Clay's very happy, and I was just tickled. He's an incredible trophy. Really incredible trophy. He's got fantastic length, exceeds 28 inches. He's got absolutely phenomenal bases, incredible circumference, good length in the second horn, and also again fantastic massive bases here. He's going to score really well in the SCI record book, which is a bonus. But overall, he's just a grand animal. Put up quite a show for us in that he's really tough, eluded us. He's extremely powerful, no doubt. Well, he was extremely powerful animal, and one that we should all respect, and one for Clay and the team to be proud of.
Yeah, it was a good team effort.